August 14th, 2025. The Yellow Sea, a confrontation that the world never expected, a Cold War relic against America's most advanced helicopter. According to unverified battlefield reports, a North Korean Mi-24 Hind attack helicopter, a machine first built in the 1980s, opened fire on a U.S. AH-64E Apache Guardian. What followed was chaos in the skies, panic beneath the waves, and humiliation that Pyongyang would never forget. But before we dive into the clash, let's set the stage. The battlefield setup. It was mid-afternoon, about 70 nautical miles off North Korea's coast. Beneath the waves, a Sango-2 diesel-electric submarine belonging to Pyongyang had already been submerged for nearly 2 days. Its batteries were running out. Its captain had no choice, surface or suffocate. But what the North Koreans didn't realize was that the U.S. military was already watching. Hovering high above the Yellow Sea was an American AH-64E Apache Guardian, not just any attack helicopter, but a $36 million flying fortress. Normally designed for tank killing on land, this Apache had been modified with sensors for anti-submarine operations and linked directly to the nearby destroyer USS Roosevelt. Now here's the key point. The claim of this submarine surfacing at the exact moment of an Apache patrol is unverified. There's no official Pentagon statement confirming this engagement. Still, multiple military blogs and regional sources allege that this is how the incident began. If true, then from the moment the Sango-2's conning tower broke the surface, the trap was already sprung. Enter the Hind. At 3:22 p.m., radar contacts showed a fast-moving aircraft from the east. Pyongyang had scrambled one of its so-called Pride aircraft, that Mi-24 Hind. Let's pause here. That Mi-24 Hind is one of the most famous Soviet helicopters of the Cold War. Rugged, heavily armed for its era, but today, outdated. It weighs 14 tons, has limited avionics, and its 23mm cannons were designed to terrorize infantry and trucks, not modern armored helicopters. And yet, according to these unverified reports, North Korea believed that sending in this relic could scare off the Americans. The Hind pilot was ordered to force the Americans away. To Pyongyang's generals, it was theater. But to the U.S. Apache crew, it was just another target. The first move, the Hind dove low, cutting across the Apache's nose at just 1,600 feet altitude. It fired off flares in a crude show of intimidation, then broadcasted a warning over the radio in broken English. American aircraft, leave area immediately. But there was one problem. Both aircraft were flying over international waters. Legally, the U.S. had every right to be there. Militarily, the Apache was untouchable. And then came the mistake that changed everything. In response, the Apache deployed its dipping sonar straight into the sea. This was no bluff. The message was clear. We still have your submarine in our sights. We're not leaving. Instead of intimidating the Americans, the Hind had just exposed its own side's weakness. Panic below the waves. Hearing that the U.S. was actively tracking their sub, the North Korean captain panicked. He ordered an emergency dive, dropping the submarine at more than 15 meters per second. The result? Catastrophic noise. Cavitation bubbles roared off the propellers. The hull creaked under pressure. Every U.S. sonar operator in the region could now hear the sub like a church bell ringing underwater. What was meant to be a show of strength was quickly turning into a public humiliation, and it was about to get worse. The opening fire. At 3:36 p.m., the fragile standoff shattered. Convinced that the U.S. wouldn't dare fire first, the North Korean Hind pilot pulled the trigger. A burst of 23mm cannon fire, nearly 400 rounds per minute, straight through the sky at the Apache. Sparks flew as shells ricocheted off the Apache's armor plating. But here's the truth. The Apache's titanium composite armor is rated to withstand 23mm hits. To the U.S. crew, it was just noise. To the North Korean pilot, it was desperation. For a brief moment, Pyongyang believed it had the upper hand. In reality, it had just given the Americans the green light to retaliate. Escalation in the sky. The Hind circled for another pass, this time locking radar onto the Apache and arming its aging Igla-V air-to-air missile. Its effective range? Barely 3 miles. Its kill probability? Low against modern countermeasures. Inside the Apache, alarms blared. The crew armed their own air-to-air defense, 2 AIM-92 Stinger missiles. These U.S. weapons accelerate to over Mach 2 and are designed to shred targets exactly like the Hind. But just as the Apache pilot squeezed the trigger, nothing happened. A jam. For 6 agonizing seconds, the world's most advanced helicopter was a sitting duck. The Hind's missile seeker found its tone. The North Korean pilot grinned. He believed he had locked onto the Apache, ready to fire. And then fate intervened. The Apache's firing system cleared. With a deafening roar, two Stingers launched off the rails at over 1,500 miles per hour. In seconds, they closed the gap, the Hind trying to pull away, pulling nearly 4.5 Gs in a desperate maneuver, but the frame was too old, too slow. The first missile ripped through its engine. The second tore the fuselage apart. A fireball lit up the Yellow Sea, the result of round one. In less than 60 seconds, the imbalance of power was undeniable. America's Apache Guardian had shrugged off cannon fire, survived a missile lock, and reduced North Korea's Hind to flaming wreckage. But here's the catch. This entire aerial engagement is unverified. No U.S. or South Korean Defense Ministry has publicly confirmed this dogfight. The reports come from regional defense blogs and leaked eyewitness claims. Still, whether exaggerated or not, the lesson is powerful. In modern warfare, intimidation backed by outdated weapons is nothing but self-destruction. And while the skies had fallen silent, the real danger was still beneath the waves, because North Korea's Sango-2 submarine was thrashing in desperation, and the U.S. Navy was already preparing its next move. The Mi-24 Hind was gone, exploded mid-air, but the fight wasn't finished. Beneath the surface of the Yellow Sea, the Sango-2 submarine, North Korea's so-called silent hunter, was still clawing for survival. What came next would push Pyongyang's agent technology to its breaking point. The U.S. moves in. At 3:44 p.m., just minutes after the Hind's fiery end, the USS Roosevelt, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer bristling with 90 vertical launch missile cells, swung into action. From its deck, an MH-60R Seahawk lifted into the sky. This helicopter wasn't built for intimidation. It was built for one thing: hunting submarines. Within minutes, the Seahawk deployed its dipping sonar, sending sound waves deep below. Almost immediately, echoes bounced back. The Sango-2 was thrashing wildly, diving too fast, turning too sharply. Its captain, in a panic, was creating a sound signature so loud that the U.S. Navy described it as a beacon in the sea. Now, let's be clear. The claim that this exact Sango-2 was detected and hunted in August 2025 has not been officially confirmed. No Pentagon briefing, no South Korean defense report. The information comes from unverified regional sources, but the tactics described are entirely consistent with how the U.S. Navy would handle such a target. The hammer falls. Once the Sango-2 was tracked, the U.S. Navy deployed its hammer. From just under 3,000 feet, the Seahawk released a M54 lightweight torpedo, a 96-pound warhead traveling at more than 40 knots underwater. At the same time, the Roosevelt launched a RUM-139 VLAS-ROC, a rocket-propelled anti-submarine weapon capable of striking targets 12 miles away. The Sango-2 never had a chance. At 3:57 p.m., the torpedo detonated against its aft section. Shockwaves slammed through the hull. Two compartments flooded instantly. Bulkheads cracked. Power levels dropped to under 40%. And yet, somehow, the sub clung to life. Instead of sinking, it managed to level off, limping deeper into the Yellow Sea. A $300 million loss in 30 minutes. The damage reports, if accurate, paint a brutal picture. Fuel lines ruptured. Propulsion reduced by more than half. Crew forced into emergency damage control. For a diesel-electric submarine weighing just 370 tons, this was catastrophic. And here's where the numbers sting. A single Sango-2 cost North Korea nearly $300 million to build, equivalent to the annual food supply for over 3 million of its citizens. In less than half an hour, one Apache helicopter and one Seahawk had made that investment nearly worthless. Again, these details remain unverified, but they match what analysts have long said. North Korea's agent technology is no match for U.S. precision. The larger humiliation. But the cost wasn't just financial, it was psychological. The Mi-24 Hind, long touted as North Korea's flying tank, was reduced to wreckage by two U.S. Stinger missiles. Each Stinger costs about $38,000, less than a luxury SUV. Against a helicopter worth over $12 million, the math was devastating. A Cold War relic had collided with modern firepower and lost, and the humiliation didn't stop there. According to defense observers, the U.S. Navy collected over an hour of uninterrupted acoustic and electronic data during the encounter. In plain terms, America had just mapped out exactly how North Korea's submarines and helicopters sound, move, and fail. That kind of intelligence is priceless. Whether every detail of this reported clash is true or not, the strategic lesson is clear. Intimidation backed by outdated weapons does not work in the 21st century. The battlefield falls silent. By 4:15 p.m., the fight was over. Smoke from the destroyed Hind drifted across the waves. Beneath the surface, the Sango II limped back toward North Korean waters, crippled and humiliated. What began as a desperate attempt to intimidate the U.S. had turned into a disaster. In less than 1 hour, Pyongyang's best equipment had been destroyed, crippled, or compromised. And the United States, not a single loss. The lessons. For America, the message was simple. Training, technology, and coordination pay off. The Apache proved it can survive direct cannon fire and still fight back. The Seahawk showed how easily it can hunt submarines. And the Roosevelt demonstrated the full reach of U.S. naval power. For North Korea, the warning could not have been clearer. Arrogance and outdated technology are a death sentence. The Mi-24 Hind was supposed to symbolize power. Instead, it symbolized failure. The Sango II was meant to stalk the seas. Instead, it crawled home, broken. The unverified truth. Now, let's step back. As dramatic as this sounds, much of the story remains unverified. The U.S. has not confirmed this battle. North Korea certainly won't admit to it. The details come from regional reports and military speculation. But whether every cannon shunt and torpedo detonation happened exactly as described doesn't change the larger truth. America's military advantage in the Yellow Sea is overwhelming. And when Cold War relics face off against modern U.S. technology, the outcome is predictable. So what do you think? If North Korea really did send an agent helicopter and submarine against U.S. forces, was it bravery or desperation? And how should America respond to nations who believe intimidation is still a strategy in modern warfare? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And as always, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Because in conflicts like these, the truth is often hidden between the explosions.